Yo, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Explore with Nill, the show that takes you on a journey across America, and sometimes, the journey gets real, like really real. Today we're diving into a serious topic, a topic that's been a stain on this country for far too long, the most segregated towns in America. Now some of you might be thinking, segregation, Nill, isn't that like ancient history? And to that I say, my friend, you need to update your history books. Because sadly, the legacy of segregation is alive and well, woven into the very fabric of many American cities. We're going to be traveling from the deep south to the Midwest, peeling back the layers of history, economics, and social dynamics to understand how segregation took root and why it's proven so damn difficult to uproot. Buckle up, folks, it's gonna be a bumpy ride. First stop, Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Now, Pine Bluff is a city with a population that's over 80% black. You'd think, okay, majority black population, how segregated can it be? Well, my friends, that's where things get complicated. See, Pine Bluff is a textbook example of how segregation isn't just about numbers, it's about opportunity, or rather, the lack thereof. For decades, Pine Bluff has struggled with poverty, lack of investment, and yeah, you guessed it, systemic racism. This has led to a situation where, despite a majority black population, resources are concentrated in predominantly white areas, leaving black communities underserved and, let's be honest, neglected. We're talking about disparities in everything from education and healthcare to job opportunities, and even access to fresh food. It's like the city is split down the middle, separate and unequal. And the crazy part is, this story isn't unique to Pine Bluff, it's a pattern we see repeated across the country. Next up, we head south to Jackson, Mississippi, a city forever etched in the annals of the civil rights movement. This is where Medgar Evers fought tirelessly for equality, where freedom riders faced down fire hoses and police brutality. Jackson is a city that's seen the best and worst of humanity. But decades after the civil rights movement, Jackson, like many southern cities, still grapples with the ghosts of its past. While legal segregation may be a thing of the past, the city remains deeply divided along racial lines. We see it in the stark economic disparities, the segregated schools, and the lack of affordable housing in predominantly black neighborhoods. It's a sobering reminder that dismantling systemic racism takes more than just changing laws. It requires a fundamental shift in attitudes, policies, and investments. Our next stop takes us to Louisville, Kentucky, a city that's been making headlines in recent years and not always for the right reasons. Louisville is where Breonna Taylor was tragically killed in her own home, sparking nationwide protests and a reckoning on race and policing. But amidst the pain and anger, there's also a palpable sense of hope in Louisville, a determination to create a more just and equitable city. Community organizers and activists are working tirelessly to address the root causes of segregation, from affordable housing and economic empowerment to police reform and education equity. Louisville still has a long way to go, but the city's willingness to confront its past and present inequalities offers a glimmer of hope, a sign that change is possible, even in the face of deep-seated challenges. Chapter 4, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a tale of two cities. Now we head north to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a city often dubbed the most segregated city in America. Milwaukee's story is one of stark contrasts, where affluent white neighborhoods stand in stark contrast to predominantly black neighborhoods plagued by poverty and disinvestment. This stark divide is no accident. Decades of discriminatory housing policies like redlining have systematically denied black residents access to opportunities and resources, trapping them in a cycle of poverty and segregation. The result? Milwaukee today has one of the largest black-white homeownership gaps in the nation, with black residents facing significant barriers to accessing quality education, healthcare, and even basic amenities. Chapter 5, Detroit, Michigan, the ruins of industry and inequality. Our journey takes us next to Detroit, Michigan, a city that was once a symbol of American industrial might, but now stands as a stark reminder of the devastating impact of deindustrialization and systemic racism. Detroit's story is inextricably linked to the auto industry, which brought jobs and prosperity to the city, but also fueled racial tensions and discriminatory housing practices. As the auto industry declined, so too did Detroit, leaving behind a city grappling with poverty, unemployment, and deep-seated segregation. The scars of redlining and discriminatory lending practices are still visible in Detroit's neighborhoods today, where Black residents continue to face barriers to economic opportunity and access to resources. Chapter 6. Chicago, Illinois, a city of neighborhoods, divided. Our next stop takes us to the Windy City, Chicago, Illinois, a sprawling metropolis known for its vibrant culture, iconic skyline, and yes, its deeply entrenched segregation. Chicago's history is a tale of two cities, one black, one white, separated by a legacy of discriminatory housing policies, economic disinvestment, and racial tensions. From the race riots of the early 20th century to the present day, Chicago has struggled to overcome its divided past. Today, Chicago remains one of the most segregated cities in America, with stark disparities in everything from education and healthcare to housing and employment. Chapter 7. New Orleans, Louisiana, Culture, History, and the Color Line. Let's head down south to New Orleans, Louisiana, a city known for its unique culture, vibrant music scene, and resilient spirit. But beneath the surface of this joyous city lies a complex history of racial segregation and inequality. From the days of slavery through the Jim Crow era, New Orleans has grappled with the legacy of racism and discrimination. The city's unique geography, with its low-lying areas vulnerable to flooding, has also played a role in shaping patterns of segregation, with Black communities often relegated to the most vulnerable areas. The aftermath of Hurricane Katrina exposed these deep-seated inequalities as Black communities were disproportionately impacted by the storm and its aftermath. Our journey continues in Atlanta, Georgia, a city that's often touted as a symbol of the New South, a place where progress and opportunity abound. But beneath the veneer of prosperity, Atlanta, like many southern cities, continues to grapple with the legacy of segregation and racial inequality. While Atlanta has made strides in recent decades with a growing Black middle class and thriving business sector, the city still faces significant challenges, including a widening wealth gap, persistent poverty in Black communities, and ongoing segregation in housing and education. Our next stop takes us to Birmingham, Alabama, a city forever etched in the annals of the civil rights movement. It was here, in Birmingham, that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. penned his famous letter from Birmingham jail, a powerful indictment of segregation and a call for racial justice. Birmingham has come a long way since the dark days of Jim Crow, but the city still bears the scars of its past. Economic inequality, residential segregation, and disparities in education and healthcare continue to plague Birmingham, a stark reminder that the fight for equality is far from over. Our final stop takes us to Baltimore, Maryland, a city with a rich history and a complex present. Baltimore, like many cities on our journey, has long grappled with issues of racial segregation and inequality. From the redlining practices of the 20th century to the ongoing challenges of poverty crime and lack of opportunity in predominantly Black neighborhoods, Baltimore faces an uphill battle in its quest for equity and justice. The death of Freddie Gray in police custody in 2015 sparked protests and unrest, highlighting the deep-seated tensions and mistrust between law enforcement and communities of color. And that's a wrap on this episode of Explore with Nill. We've traveled across America, shining a light on the uncomfortable truth of segregation and its enduring legacy. It's a sobering reminder that the fight for equality is far from over. But hey, this isn't just about pointing out problems, it's about sparking conversations, challenging assumptions, and hopefully inspiring action. If you found this video eye-opening, share it with your friends, family, even that one uncle who still thinks segregation ended in the 60s. Let's keep this conversation going. And hey, if you have any ideas for future episodes, drop them in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay woke. Peace out.